We're back for another Zoom chat. Daniel and I here from Missing Maple Consulting Group. And today we want to tackle another leadership challenge of the 21st century. That's what the hell we're doing with this whole project. That's why we formed this company. And that's what we're bridging. We're bridging the gap from university to industry. And that huge proficiency issue that we see between the confidence that graduate students are bringing with them into the workplace, into the workspace, that they're bringing that confidence, but the competence just isn't there. And this is
I'm just glad that you're going to answer what the hell we're doing, because I'm glad one of us knows. That does my heart good to know. So,
well, thankfully I'm here then, because I do know what the hell we're doing, and I know what the hell to do about this situation. It's a complex one, and I think that's the first thing to acknowledge, is that leadership in today's world is not like managing in yesterday's. And we need to think about the paradigm shift as work has gone from a workplace to now what would be better be called as a workspace, oftentimes the kitchen table, while at the same time your workers are managing school on Zoom meetings as well for their own children. And so what does work look like today, and how do we best set our teams up for success? That's the challenge set before us today. Daniel, what have you seen on the university side? You spent the major part of your life in the university system or working with it. What's the challenge you see from that path into the industry?
well, there are many challenges. For me, the biggest is the culture that we talked about in a previous video. We've spent so long cultivating culture, campus culture, making your campus gorgeous. I went to Seattle University, it has this gorgeous feel, and all the dorms, and they try to have the similar colors and the branding everywhere. Guess what though? Branding doesn't matter if there's no one around to see it. And so having these empty, beautiful buildings with tons of overhead operational costs, and trying to, how do we synthesize those things? Because the physical is the embodiment of something more. So for a college, the spirit of education, or the drive, the inspiration to learn more. So the buildings are supposed to be the physical embodiment. Well, now you have to synthesize that. You have to synthesize and send it out, market it, and then hopefully people will want to still pay your tuition. And so colleges are really struggling with this. If you do not have a real solid sense of what you're doing, of what you're teaching, maybe you're just kind of teaching or it's having a curriculum because you've always had, or it's a good money maker, but you don't have a good reason to be, then you've got problems. And so that's just one of the areas where colleges are having to adapt in this new environment.
So when everyone has the same Zoom background, to your point, but you're talking to Seattle U or Gonzaga or Duke or Washington State University professors on Zoom, you're not getting that same experience, first off.
No.
But you're also not getting the same engagement from students who feel physically disengaged, but also from a brand perspective. The empirical brick and mortar that, to your point, is the embodiment of the intangible. The tangible represents the intangible, is no longer there. And so now it's all virtual. And what a challenge to now win the heart of your student. We talk about winning the heart in the workplace, in industry, but the challenge is the same at the university level. How do you win the heart of your student in the university? What a unique challenge set for academia and for faculty and leaders and professors. And when you add to that only about 20 to 25% of professors are in tenure or tenure track positions, I think this complicates things even more.
And really, it opens the playing field for those institutions, companies, organizations, colleges. Will they evolve in this new environment, or will they still cling on to the old ways of doing things.
Going back to your challenge that you just mentioned about how not being on campus is literally changing how students, literally, if you think about it, it makes sense, but it's actually complex. It's changing how students perceive the education they're receiving. And then as a result of that, it changes how students are actually engaging themselves. And then as a result, engaging with their professors. So it's
So say,
go ahead.
you can have the same Zoom class for $800 a credit hour at a community college, or you can have it for $5,000 a credit hour. And ostensibly, it's the same thing. You are in your same kitchen table, taking the same content from a different professor, and one professor may be a well-researched PhD and the other may not, but ostensibly it's the same. What do you think people are going to choose?
Well, I see this trend already starting, and I think you have too on your side as well. And I think what they're choosing is and I think this is going to have effects on the contribution in the workplace, because I think they're going to choose the cheaper option. And I've seen this with a lot of my friends in the public education system. Spent a lot of time investing in relationships with many people who teach in middle and high school. In addition to the work I did in the credit union industry, working with dozens upon dozens of teachers. And one of the trends I saw was that when teachers could get raises for additional education levels, which they do, so moving from a 4-year to a 6-year degree, from a bachelor to a master's degree, increases your pay for the rest of your life in that educational job. And so many of the educators I knew started going back to get their master's degree because of the extra income it would produce, but they weren't going back to physical brick and mortar university institutions. Rather, most of them were going to the cheaper online options just to get the degree. And this is having huge effects, as these are the educators of an entire generation. These educators are opting for the cheaper virtual option themselves. What would they then encourage and then ultimately will produce for the students that are leading out of high school into college? That's the question. That's the challenge.